My sister announced over text, "You're not invited to the wedding. It's a classy event," and Mom reacted with a laughing emoji. I simply replied, "Understood. I'll cancel the classy payments too." They tried to mock me. This isn't just a story about a canceled wedding. This is the story of how my own sister and mother, the people I had sacrificed everything for, tried to erase me from their lives, and how that betrayal finally set me free. My heart literally froze when I saw the message from my sister, Caroline. "Just so you know, you're not invited to the wedding. It's a classy event." And below it, a laughing emoji from my mother. No words, just pure, digital mockery of my exclusion. My chest tightened, a cold, hard knot of disbelief. For 8 agonizing years, I'd been their personal ATM, their safety net. 70% of that classy event was coming straight from my savings. I took a shaky breath and typed back one simple, powerful sentence. "Understood. I'll cancel the classy payments, too." Their immediate, dismissive replies made one thing brutally clear. They never, ever thought I'd actually stand up for myself. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Growing up in Boston's Dorchester neighborhood, life wasn't a fairy tale. My dad worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, until a heart attack took him when I was just 14. That left my mom, Amanda, to raise me and my 10-year-old sister, Caroline. We struggled, big time. But I dug in, focused on school, and eventually, a scholarship to study computer science pulled me out. That was 12 years ago. Now, at 32, I'd built a successful career as a senior software engineer. And for the last 8 years, I was the sole financial backbone of our family. At first, it was emergency stuff. Mom's car broke down, Caroline needed textbooks. But it slowly, insidiously, became expected. I paid off Mom's mortgage 3 years ago. I funded Caroline's entire education at Northeastern. Any financial hiccup, I was there. "Ivan, you're so blessed to be in a position to help family," Mom would purr whenever she called with another request. Blessed. It always felt like a subtle dig, a way to dismiss the 16-hour workdays and sacrifices that built my success. Caroline, fresh out of Northeastern with a marketing degree, landed a job at a swanky PR firm. That's where she met Thomas, the heir to a luxury real estate empire, dripping with old money and Boston high society connections. 6 months later, they were engaged. "This wedding needs to reflect our status," Caroline told me over coffee last year. "Thomas's family has expectations." What followed was a detailed, exhausting breakdown of why she needed $45,000 from me to create her perfect day. And like an idiot, I agreed. I always did. But here's the kicker. Caroline insisted I keep my contributions a secret. "Thomas thinks my family is paying," she explained, a cringe on her face. "It would be embarrassing if he knew it was just you. His parents would think we're, poor. Just not their kind of people." I signed the checks anyway. The venue deposit, the designer dress, the premium catering, the exclusive photographer, the wedding planner whose clients included minor celebrities. Every month, more invoices, and I paid them without a single complaint. Then came the text, exactly when I was about to transfer the next installment for the venue. "Just so you know, you're not invited to the wedding. It's a classy event." I sat in my apartment, the same modest 2-bedroom I'd had for years. Despite my income, I lived simply, saving and investing. Caroline had always mocked my furniture, my decor, whenever she bothered to visit, which was increasingly rare as she ascended into Thomas's world. That night, reeling from her text, I was scrolling through Instagram. A post from a mutual friend caught my eye, someone in Caroline's bridal party. Final dress fittings for the Hartwell wedding. Can't wait to celebrate these 2 amazing people. Boston society wedding. Then, a comment. "Will your brother be walking you down the aisle?" Caroline's response sent ice through my veins. "God, no. Ivan's too socially awkward. He'd just embarrass us all. Some people just don't fit into classy events, More comments followed, with Caroline publicly explaining how she had to protect the wedding from my presence, describing me as a typical tech nerd who wouldn't understand the social nuances of their circle. I was stunned. For years, I'd excused Caroline's behavior as thoughtlessness, as being caught up in her own life. But this was deliberate, public cruelty, a mockery of the very person funding her dream. I closed the app. 8 years of financial support. 8 years of being there, every single time they called. 8 years of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who sacrificed. And this was my reward. Exclusion. Mockery. Being treated as an embarrassment. I looked at my phone and typed my response again. Understood. I'll cancel the classy payments, too. My phone immediately exploded. Caroline, very funny. You wouldn't dare. Mom, stop being dramatic, Ivan. This is Caroline's special day. Caroline, you're just proving why you don't belong there. Mom, you know how important this is for our family standing. Our family standing, not my standing, apparently. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in 8 years, I didn't give in. The next morning, my phone was a blinking monument to their panic. 15 missed calls, 37 messages. I ignored them. By lunch, Mom was calling my office. Ivan, you need to stop this nonsense, she snapped when I finally answered. Stop what, Mom? I asked, my voice calm. I just acknowledged Caroline's wishes. She doesn't want me at her wedding. You're being too sensitive. Mom insisted. You know you wouldn't fit in with Thomas's family. They're sophisticated people. And I'm not. I countered. Honey, you know what I mean. You work with computers all day. You don't understand these social situations. I understand enough to know that laughing at your son being excluded isn't normal. It was just an emoji. Good Lord, when did you become so dramatic? This isn't about you. You're right, I said, my voice dangerously even. It's about the $45,000 I've put toward a wedding I'm not welcome to attend. Silence. Then, we've always known you'd help with the wedding. You're established. Caroline's just starting out. I've been just starting out my entire adult life, according to you. I shot back. When exactly do I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor? Is that what this is about? Money? How petty, Ivan. The conversation devolved, until I finally hung up. All day, more frantic messages from Caroline, a dizzying mix of dismissive and vaguely concerned. You can't actually be serious. The venue needs payment by Friday. Mom says you're being difficult. You're not really going to ruin my wedding over this, right? I didn't respond to a single one. That evening, I sat in my quiet apartment, lost in our family history. Caroline was always the favorite. New clothes for her, hand-me-downs for me, ballet lessons for her. Sports are too expensive for me. A lavish sweet 16, while my own 16th birthday passed with a store-bought cake. I'd always rationalized it. She was younger, she was a girl, a million excuses. But now, I wondered if they simply valued her more than me. A memory surfaced from when I was 17, scholarship letters from colleges scattered on the table. That's nice, honey, Mom had said, barely glancing at my MIT acceptance. Then she'd turned to Caroline, admiring on a middle school English paper. Look at this, my brilliant girl. We should frame this. The next day, I called Caroline. Have you come to your senses? She asked, exasperated. I want to understand something, I said. Why am I not invited to your wedding? I told you, she sighed dramatically. It's a classy event, and you're not classy. Ivan, you're my brother and I love you, but let's be real. You don't exactly fit the vibe we're going for. Thomas's family is connected to everyone who matters in Boston. His mother is on the board of the Museum of Fine Arts. His father plays golf with the governor. And what does that have to do with me? You live in that same dumpy apartment. You wear the same boring clothes. You talk about coding and investments. You're just ordinary. Ordinary. I repeated, the word of bitter taste. The same ordinary that paid for your education. The same ordinary that's funding 70% of your wedding. That's different, she snapped. Family helps family. That's what you're supposed to do. Is excluding family also what you're supposed to do? Look, Thomas's parents don't even know about you. I told them I'm an only child. It would be weird to suddenly produce a brother they've never heard of. That hit me like a physical blow. You told them you're an only child? It was easier that way. They kept asking about my family background. And it's not exactly impressive to say my brother's a computer nerd who paid for my college. I see. I managed, keeping my voice steady despite the searing hurt. So, I'm good enough to fund your life, but not good enough to acknowledge publicly. Don't be so dramatic. It's just easier this way. After hanging up, I scrolled social media again, finding photos from their engagement party 6 months ago, an event I hadn't even known about. My mother, beaming, posed beside Caroline in a designer dress I immediately recognized. I had paid $3,000 for it that very day, believing I was helping her feel confident for her daughter's wedding events. A wedding I now knew I was never meant to attend. That evening, my best friend Marcus called. Your mother called me, he said. She wanted me to talk some sense into you. And what sense would that be? Apparently, you're threatening to pull wedding funding because you're jealous of Caroline's happiness. I laughed, a raw, bitter sound. After I explained everything, Marcus was silent for a long moment. Ivan, he said, his voice grave. I've watched you support them for years while they take you for granted. When are you going to stand up for yourself? I think I just did, I replied, surprising even myself. Good, Marcus said firmly. It's about time. The next morning, I started making calls. The wedding venue, the caterer, the florist, the wedding planner. With each call, a strange mix of guilt and liberation. Are you sure about this, sir? The planner asked. The Hartwell wedding is one of our premium events this season. I'm sure, I said. I will no longer be financially supporting this event. I sent emails confirming, telling them to direct all future inquiries to Caroline or Thomas. Then, I called my bank and stopped all automatic payments related to the wedding. For the rest of the day, I buried myself in work, ignoring the increasingly frantic messages from Caroline and my mother. They still thought I was bluffing. They still believed I would give in, just like I always had. That evening, I was in Dr. Bennett's office. I'd started seeing the therapist 6 months prior, struggling with burnout from years of financial and emotional support with nothing in return. You've taken a significant step, Dr. Bennett observed. How does it feel? Terrifying, I admitted. And freeing. Your reaction is completely normal. You've been trapped in a pattern of enabling their behavior for years. Breaking that pattern is difficult, but necessary for your own well-being. I keep thinking about how this will affect them, I said, a pang of my old self. Caroline's wedding is in 2 months. Without my money, they'll have to scale back dramatically or postpone. That's a natural consequence of their actions, she corrected gently. Not your responsibility. They made choices. They need to account for them. But they're my family, I argued, the old, well-worn excuse. Family relationships should be reciprocal, she said. They've been taking advantage of your generosity without acknowledging or respecting you. That's not a healthy dynamic. By Friday, Caroline's messages were a fever pitch. The venue had called her. The caterer. The florist. The photographer. You can't do this to me, she texted. Everyone will know we can't afford the wedding we planned. I didn't respond. My mother called next. Ivan, this childish behavior needs to stop. You're punishing your sister because your feelings are hurt. I'm not punishing anyone, I replied, my voice steady. I'm simply no longer funding an event I'm not welcome to attend. So this is blackmail? You'll pay if you get an invitation? No, Mom. This isn't negotiable. I'm done being the family ATM. The weekend was a blur of increasingly desperate calls and messages. I spent Saturday hiking the Blue Hills with Marcus, something I rarely did because family emergencies always claim my weekends. They'll figure it out, Marcus assured me. Caroline's fiance is loaded, right? His family can cover the costs. That would mean admitting she lied about who was paying, I pointed out. Then that's her problem to solve. On Sunday evening, I met my colleague Sarah for coffee. We'd become friends, bonding over shared interests. Unlike most people, Sarah knew very little about my family. You seem different, she observed. More relaxed. I found myself telling her the whole story. Sarah listened, her expression growing increasingly concerned. Ivan, she said, when I finished. What you're describing sounds like emotional abuse. They've been exploiting your generosity and manipulating you with guilt. That seems extreme, I said, uncomfortable with the terminology. Is it? She challenged. They take your money, exclude you from events you've paid for, mock you publicly, and make you feel guilty when you object. How would you describe that? I had no answer. Monday morning, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar charge, $10,000 to the wedding venue. Caroline had used my credit card information. I called the bank. This is fraud, the representative confirmed. Would you like to press charges? After a moment's hesitation, I said, no, but I want to dispute the charge and cancel this card immediately. That evening, an unfamiliar number. Is this Ivan? A male voice asked. It was Thomas Hartwell, Caroline's fiance. I just found out you exist. Thomas's call left me reeling. Not only had Caroline told his family she was an only child, she'd kept my existence secret from him too. I don't understand, he said, his confusion palpable. How could Caroline never mention having a brother? We've been together for almost 2 years. I'm as surprised as you are, I replied, truthfully. Though perhaps I shouldn't be. She says you're threatening to ruin our wedding because you're jealous. Is that true? I took a deep breath. No, I've been paying for most of the wedding. When Caroline told me I wasn't invited because it's a classy event and I wouldn't fit in, I stopped making payments. Silence. You've been paying for our wedding? Thomas finally asked, his voice stunned. Caroline told me her family was covering it as a gift. Her family, meaning me specifically. I've put in $45,000 so far. $45,000, he trailed off. I had no idea. My parents have been contributing too. Caroline said it was a joint effort between our families. Well, that's partly true, I said. Just not the families, she implied. We spoke for another 10 minutes, Thomas asking increasingly pointed questions about Caroline's other deceptions. I kept my answers factual, unemotional. I think we need to meet in person, he finally said. Would that be possible? We arranged lunch for the next day. A part of me felt vindicated. Another part, profoundly sad. My doorbell rang at 11 p.m. that night. Peeking through the peephole, I saw Caroline and my mother. I considered ignoring them, but after a moment, I opened the door. Caroline pushed past me, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. You've been ignoring us for days. My mother followed, a perfunctory hug. We need to talk, Ivan. It's almost midnight, I pointed out. This couldn't wait. Caroline said. The venue called. They're giving away our date if we don't pay by tomorrow. That's unfortunate, I said, a neutral tone. Unfortunate? It's a disaster. Do you have any idea how hard it was to book that place? They're reserved 2 years in advance. Then I imagine they have a waiting list of people happy to take your spot. Caroline's face flushed with anger. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching everything fall apart. No, Caroline, I'm not. But I'm also not responsible for fixing it. My mother stepped forward. Ivan, be reasonable. Caroline has dreamed of this wedding her whole life. And I've dreamed of being valued by my family. I countered. We can't always get what we want. Of course we value you. Mom looked offended. Really? Is that why you laughed when Caroline told me I wasn't invited? Is that why neither of you told Thomas the first exist? Is that why Caroline has been publicly mocking me on social media? You're exaggerating. Caroline said dismissively. Am I? You told people I'm too socially awkward. You called me too ordinary for your classy event. I didn't mean it like that, she protested weakly. Then how did you mean it? Thomas's family has expectations. They're connected to everyone who matters in Boston. And I don't matter. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said, Caroline. Not in those words, perhaps, but the message was clear. My mother interjected. Ivan, you have to understand. This wedding is our chance to improve our standing. Caroline marrying into the Hartwell family opens doors for all of us. All of us, I scoffed. Or just you and Caroline. Because from where I'm standing, I'm being pushed further outside the door, not invited in. That's not fair, my mother protested. No, I said, my voice rising slightly. What's not fair is expecting me to finance a celebration I'm explicitly told I'm not good enough to attend. Caroline's tone shifted, suddenly pleading. Ivan, please. If we have to cancel or downsize, Thomas's family will know something's wrong. They'll start asking questions. Then be honest with them. Caroline laughed bitterly. And tell them what? That I lied about being an only child? That I can't actually afford the wedding I planned? Yes, exactly that. They'd call off the engagement. His mother already thinks I'm not good enough for him. She keeps making comments about new money and asking about my pedigree like I'm a show dog. That sounds like a Thomas problem, I said, firmly. Not an Ivan problem. My mother's expression hardened. I always knew you were selfish, but this is beyond anything I expected from you. Selfish? I repeated, incredulous. I paid off your mortgage. I funded Caroline's entire education. I've been supporting both of you financially for 8 years. How exactly does that make me selfish? Family helps family, my mother said, echoing Caroline's earlier words. That's what you're supposed to do. And what are you supposed to do for me in return? Besides take my money and exclude me from family events. Neither of them had an answer. They left without another word. After they were gone, I checked my email. A notification from my financial advisor. Caroline had attempted to access my investment accounts. As requested, I've denied the attempt to transfer funds from your account. Please contact me at your earliest convenience to discuss this security concern. I sank onto my couch, the reality crushing me. Not just the credit card fraud, but this. My own sister. The next day, I met Thomas at a quiet restaurant. He looked as tired as I felt. I confronted Caroline last night, he said. She admitted everything. That you've been paying for most of the wedding. That she told my family she was an only child. And I prompted when he fell silent. And she doesn't understand why either of us is upset about it. He shook his head. She says she was just trying to fit in with my family, that she didn't think it mattered. He looked up directly at me. What do you think? I think I don't know who I'm marrying. Word spread like wildfire through Boston's social circles. The Hartwell-Bennett wedding was in trouble. Vendors called Caroline daily. Thomas's parents started asking pointed questions. Meanwhile, I threw myself into work and therapy. You're making remarkable progress, Dr. Bennett told me. Many people struggle their entire lives to break free from unhealthy family dynamics. It doesn't feel like progress, I admitted. It feels like I've ruined everything. You haven't ruined anything, she gently corrected. You've simply stopped enabling a dysfunctional situation. The current chaos is the result of years of lies and manipulation coming to light, not your decision to set boundaries. I also joined a support group for adults dealing with family trauma. Hearing other people's stories resonated deeply. My sister was always the golden child, one member shared. My mother used money to control me, said another. I wasn't alone. Outside of therapy, I started reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, like Marcus. Sarah and I began spending more time together, a deeper connection blossoming. Unlike my family, she showed genuine interest in me. Tell me about your latest project, she'd say, and actually listened, asking thoughtful questions. 3 weeks after I stopped the wedding payments, Thomas's parents discovered the full truth. Caroline, desperate, had asked them for additional funds, leading to questions she couldn't answer. She eventually admitted that her family contribution had come from her brother they didn't know existed. Thomas called me that evening. My parents want to meet you, he said. Why? I asked, genuinely puzzled. They want to understand what's happening. My mother says something doesn't add up. I hesitated. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Please, Ivan, he pleaded. I'm trying to make sense of all this. I love Caroline, but I don't know if I can trust her anymore. Against my better judgment, I agreed to dinner at the Hartwell's Beacon Hill home. The house was exactly what I'd expected, a historic brownstone filled with antiques. Richard and Eleanor, Thomas's parents, were polite but clearly suspicious. So, you're Caroline's brother, Eleanor said, after the introductions. The one she never mentioned. Yes, ma'am. And you've been paying for a significant portion of the wedding? Richard asked bluntly. Why would you do that if you weren't even invited? I chose my words carefully. I've always supported my family financially. When Caroline asked for help, I agreed without question. The invitation, or lack thereof, came later. This is highly irregular, Eleanor said. In our circles, family stands together at important events. I believe that was the problem, I replied quietly. I don't move in your circles. The conversation continued, the Hartwells asking direct questions about my family dynamics. I answered truthfully, without malice, simply explaining. By the end, Eleanor fixed me with a penetrating stare. Thomas tells us you're a software engineer, that you paid off your mother's mortgage and funded Caroline's education, that you live modestly despite your success. Yes, that's correct. Those sound like admirable qualities to me, she said, turning to her husband. Wouldn't you agree, Richard? He nodded slowly. Indeed. Hard work, financial responsibility, family loyalty. These are values we respect. She looked back at me. Then why, Mr. Bennett? Would Caroline believe we would think less of her because of you? I had no answer. As I was leaving, Thomas walked me to my car. Thank you for coming, he said. I think my parents see things more clearly now. What about you? I asked. What do you see? He ran a hand through his hair. I'm still processing everything. I love Caroline, but this isn't the only lie she's told me. I'm beginning to wonder what else I don't know. The next day, Caroline showed up at my office, creating a scene in the lobby. How could you? She demanded, storming into my office. You went to dinner with Thomas's parents. Behind my back. To humiliate me. They invited me, I said calmly. Thomas asked me to come. They spent 2 hours questioning me after you left. They're talking about postponing the wedding now. I'm sorry to hear that, I said sincerely. But I didn't say anything untrue. You didn't have to, she wailed. Just your existence contradicts what I told them. This was my chance, Ivan. My chance to be someone important in this city. You already are someone important, I said. You're smart, talented, and capable. You don't need the Hartwell name for that. Easy for you to say, she scoffed. You've always had everything handed to you. I stared at her, momentarily speechless. What are you talking about? You got the scholarships, the high-paying job, the financial security. Some of us have to marry our way up in the world, Caroline. I worked incredibly hard for everything I have. Nothing was handed to me. Oh, please, she sneered. You've always been Mom's favorite. The accusation was so far from my reality that I actually laughed. Mom's favorite. Are we talking about the same mother? The one who forgot my college graduation but threw you a party for finishing your first semester? The one who calls me only when she needs money but talks to you daily? That mother. Caroline faltered, then rallied. She pushed you to succeed. She made you independent. She baby-ed me and made me dependent. That's one interpretation, I conceded. Here's another. She neglected me and forced me to become self-sufficient, while supporting and nurturing you. That's not true. Caroline protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? When was the last time Mom called you just to check in, not to ask for something? When was the last time she remembered your birthday without being reminded, or asked about your day, or supported your career? Tears filled Caroline's eyes. Stop it. These are just questions, Caroline. Questions I've been asking myself lately about why we both accepted such different treatment as normal. I don't want to talk about this anymore, she said, wiping her eyes. I just want my wedding back on track. I can't help you with that. Can't or won't. Both, I suppose. I can't because the money I've already spent is gone, and I won't because I'm done being used by my family. Caroline left without another word. But the confrontation stayed with me. Had our mother's differential treatment damaged both of us, just in different ways? Had Caroline's sense of entitlement been cultivated by years of preferential treatment, just as my excessive giving had been shaped by emotional neglect? Later that week, my cousin Rachel called. Rachel was my father's niece, someone I'd barely seen since his death. Mom had always discouraged contact with his side of the family, claiming they had issues with her. I heard about the wedding drama, Rachel said. News travels fast. Great, I sighed. Family gossip. Actually, several of us have been concerned about you for years. The way Aunt Amanda and Caroline take advantage of you isn't right. Her words startled me. You've noticed that? Everyone has noticed, Ivan. We just didn't feel it was our place to interfere. Your mom made it clear after Uncle Jack died that we weren't welcome in your lives. I never knew that, I said softly. There's a lot you probably don't know. Listen, some of us are getting together this weekend. Would you like to come reconnect with your father's side of the family? I agreed without hesitation. The gathering was a revelation. My father's siblings and their families welcomed me warmly, sharing stories about my dad I'd never heard, showing me photos I'd never seen. Your father would be so proud of the man you've become, my Uncle Robert told me. But he'd also be concerned about how you've been treated. What do you mean? Jack always worried about Amanda's favoritism. Even when you were small, he could see the difference. He tried to compensate by spending extra time with you. I remembered those times vaguely. Fishing trips, changing a tire, science projects. I treasured them, but never realized they were deliberate. After he died, Uncle Robert continued. We tried to stay involved, but Amanda pushed us away. By the end of the day, I had exchanged contact information with a dozen relatives. For the first time in years, I felt part of a larger family network, one that seemed genuinely interested in me as a person, not as a financial resource. A week later, organizing old documents, I discovered a file I'd never seen before. Papers for a small life insurance policy my father had taken out, naming me as the beneficiary. $30,000, payable upon his death when I was 14. I had never seen a penny of it. I called my mother immediately. Did you know about Dad's life insurance policy? A telling pause. What policy? The one naming me as beneficiary for $30,000. Another pause. Oh, that old thing. Yes, there was some small policy, but it barely covered the funeral expenses. The funeral was paid for separately, I said, my voice tight. I have those receipts. What happened to the insurance money, Mom? Ivan, that was 18 years ago. How would I remember exactly where every penny went? We were struggling after your father died. So, you took money specifically left to me and spent it. I was a single mother with 2 children. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to tell me, for starters, and perhaps acknowledge that I've more than paid back that money over the years. Is that what this is about? You keeping score of every dollar you've given your family? No, Mom. It's about honesty and respect, neither of which I seem to get from you or Caroline. After hanging up, I sat with the documents spread before me, feeling a strange sense of clarity. The missing insurance money wasn't just about money. It represented years of deception, a pattern that continued to this day. The wedding was officially postponed indefinitely. Thomas's parents insisted on a cooling-off period. Caroline blamed me entirely, launching a social media campaign portraying herself as the victim of a jealous brother. My own brother sabotaged my dream wedding out of spite, she posted. Some people just can't stand to see others happy. I didn't respond publicly. There was no point. Instead, I continued therapy, deepened my newfound family connections, and focused on building a healthier life. My relationship with Sarah blossomed, built on mutual respect and genuine interest. For the first time, I experienced what a balanced relationship felt like. You're different now, Sarah observed one evening as we walked along the Charles River. More present, more confident. I feel different, I admitted. Like I've put down a heavy load I didn't even realize I was carrying. With Dr. Bennett's encouragement, I set clear financial boundaries with everyone. My money, previously earmarked for family support, was redirected to causes I believed in and to building my own future. Financial enabling is still enabling, Dr. Bennett reminded me. It prevents others from experiencing the natural consequences of their actions and developing their own resources. Meanwhile, Caroline's relationship with Thomas deteriorated further. As more truths came to light, his trust eroded beyond repair. 2 months after the postponement, he broke the engagement entirely. Caroline showed up at my apartment that night, drunk and furious. Happy now, she slurred. You've ruined everything. I didn't end your engagement, Caroline, I said. Your lies did that. He wouldn't have cared about the lies if the wedding had gone forward. We'd be married by now if you hadn't pulled your funding. And you'd have built your marriage on deception. How long do you think that would have lasted? Forever. That's how these marriages work. Everyone in those circles lies about something. I let her rant until she exhausted herself, then called her an Uber. The next morning, she texted a half-hearted apology, immediately followed by a request for rent money. I didn't respond. My mother's financial reality also shifted dramatically without my support. The credit cards I'd been paying suddenly required her attention. Home maintenance became her responsibility. The shopping habits I'd subsidized became unsustainable. I'm going to lose the house, she called to tell me one afternoon. The house is paid off, Mom, I reminded her. I paid the mortgage in full 3 years ago, but I can't afford the property taxes and insurance. They've gone up again this year. Perhaps you could get a job, Mom. You're only 58 and in good health. A job? At my age, many people work well into their 60s and 70s. This is cruel, Ivan. After everything I've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? I asked genuinely. I'm genuinely asking. I raised you. I put a roof over your head. I fed and clothed you. You did the legally required minimum for a child. Yes. After Dad died. Even that was a struggle, I acknowledge. But since I turned 18, what have you contributed to my life besides requests for money and criticism? She had no answer beyond accusing me of being heartless. The conversation was painful but clarifying. My mother had never seen me as an individual with my own needs and desires, but as a resource. Caroline had learned this perspective from her. Neither had developed the capacity for genuine reciprocity. Extended family members reached out, most expressing support. We always wondered when you'd reach your breaking point, my Aunt Judith told me. Amanda's behavior toward you wasn't normal even when your father was alive. After he died, it got worse. Why didn't anyone say anything? I asked. We tried. Early on, Amanda cut us off completely. By the time you were an adult, the patterns were established. You seemed to accept them. My cousin Rachel invited me to her daughter's birthday party, a small, genuine family gathering, unlike the orchestrated social events my mother preferred. Being included, without being expected to fund it, felt novel and touching. Your family, Rachel said simply when I thanked her. Family includes each other. That bare minimum had been missing from my maternal relationships for as long as I could remember. 3 months after the wedding cancellation, Caroline lost her job at the PR firm. Her dramatic personal posts and erratic behavior had finally impacted her professional life. "I need help," she said, calling me immediately. "I can't make rent this month." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied. "What's your plan?" "My plan? You're my plan. You always help when I need money." "That's not happening anymore, Caroline. I'm happy to help you brainstorm solutions or review your resume, but I'm not giving you money. So, you'll just let me be homeless?" "Your own sister. You won't be homeless. You have options. You could move in with mom. Get a roommate. Take a temporary job while looking for something in your field. You could sell some of your designer clothes and bags. Those are my things. I shouldn't have to sell my things. Then make another choice. But solving this isn't my responsibility." After several more conversations like this, Caroline finally took action. She found a roommate, took a job at a local coffee shop, and began rebuilding her life without Thomas or my financial support. To my surprise, after the initial anger faded, she began to show signs of genuine growth. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told me during a brief, awkward coffee meeting about mom treating us differently. "I think you're right. She always made me feel like I was special, but also like I couldn't succeed without help. Like I was both better than everyone else and completely incapable at the same time. It's messed up." "It is," I agreed. "I'm seeing someone now," she clarified. "A therapist, I mean. It's hard. She asks a lot of uncomfortable questions." "That's how it works," I said, with a small smile. "The uncomfortable questions are the important ones." Our relationship remained strained, but that conversation marked the beginning of a potential new dynamic, one based on honest communication rather than transactional exchanges. My mother proved less open to change. When her attempts to guilt me into resuming financial support failed, she turned to more manipulative tactics, including fabricating health scares and threatening to sell family heirlooms. "I might have to sell your father's watch," she told me one day, "unless you could help out this month." "Dad's watch is in my possession," I replied calmly. "It has been since I turned 21, when he specified I should receive it." Her tactics grew increasingly desperate as her financial situation deteriorated. Eventually, she was forced to downsize, selling the family home and moving to a small apartment. "I hope you're satisfied," she said bitterly when I helped her move some boxes. "Seeing your mother reduced to this." "I'm not satisfied or dissatisfied, Mom," I said. "I'm just no longer preventing you from experiencing the natural consequences of your choices." "Such a cold way to treat family," she muttered. "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, treating family with genuine care rather than as a means to an end seems like the warmer approach." The conversation was difficult, but I felt clear. Throughout this tumultuous period, my reconnection with my father's family proved invaluable. They provided historical context I'd been missing, sharing stories about my parents' relationship and my early childhood that helped me understand the roots of our dysfunctional dynamics. "Your mother always resented your resemblance to Jack," Uncle Robert told me during one visit. "Not just physically, but your temperament, your intelligence. After he died, I think seeing those traits in you was painful for her." "That doesn't excuse her behavior," I pointed out. "No, it doesn't. Understanding isn't the same as excusing, but it might help you process what happened and move forward without carrying that baggage." He was right. Understanding didn't make it acceptable, but it did help me release some of the hurt and confusion I'd carried since childhood. By the 6-month mark after the canceled wedding, my life had transformed in ways I hadn't imagined possible. I'd moved to a nicer apartment, one I'd chosen because I loved it, not because it was the cheapest option that allowed me to support others. I'd taken a leadership role at work, no longer afraid to commit to projects that might make me temporarily unavailable for family emergencies. I'd built genuine connections with extended family and friends, relationships based on mutual enjoyment rather than obligation. Most significantly, I'd learned to value myself, not for what I could provide, but for who I was as a person. The journey wasn't easy, but each step brought increasing clarity and confidence. "Family patterns don't change overnight," Dr. Bennett reminded me. "What matters is that you've broken the cycle for yourself. The rest is up to them." Autumn arrived in Boston, painting the city in vibrant reds and golds. Nearly 8 months had passed since the wedding cancellation. Caroline had gradually rebuilt her life on a more authentic foundation. After several months at the coffee shop, she'd secured a position at a smaller marketing firm. Her social media presence had transformed from curated perfection to honest reflections on personal growth. "I've been thinking about what happened with Thomas," she told me during one of our now monthly coffee meetings. "I was so focused on what his family represented that I lost sight of what a relationship should actually be." "And what should it be?" I asked. "Real, honest, based on who we actually are, not who we're pretending to be." She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "I don't think I ever really knew Thomas. I was too busy performing for him and his family. Our relationship remained a work in progress, but these moments of genuine connection gave me hope. My mother's transformation was harder. The loss of her home and lifestyle had been deeply traumatic. Some days she seemed to recognize her role. Other days, she retreated into bitterness. "I did the best I could as a single mother," she said during one of our infrequent phone calls. "I believe you did what you thought was best," I replied carefully. "But that doesn't mean it was actually best for any of us, including yourself." "Such wisdom from someone who's never raised children," she said sarcastically. "I'm not claiming wisdom, Mom. I'm just sharing my perspective after a lot of therapy and reflection." Despite the tension, small changes suggested potential for growth. She'd found part-time work at a library, giving her income and social connection. She'd started acknowledging her differential treatment of her children, though she framed it as well-intentioned. "I just wanted Caroline to feel special," she explained. "And you were always so capable, so independent. I thought you didn't need the same kind of attention." "Everyone needs attention and validation, Mom. Even capable, independent people." "I suppose you're right," she conceded reluctantly. "Your father used to say the same thing." These moments of insight were interspersed with relapses, but the frequency gradually diminished as she adjusted to our new boundaries. My own life continued to flourish. Sarah and I had a deeply supportive relationship. My career advanced. My connection with my father's family strengthened, providing the sense of belonging I'd always craved. Most importantly, I developed a healthier relationship with myself. "The most valuable thing you've gained isn't the money you've saved," Dr. Bennett observed. "It's the recognition of your inherent value as a person." As Thanksgiving approached, I made a decision that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. I offered to host the holiday at my new apartment, not out of obligation, but a genuine desire to create new traditions based on authentic connection. I invited Sarah, Marcus and his wife, several cousins from my father's side, and after careful consideration, Caroline and my mother. I made it clear, drama-free, gratitude, connection, not an opportunity to rehash old grievances. To my surprise, everyone accepted. The day arrived bright and clear. I spent the morning cooking with Sarah, preparing traditional dishes. The atmosphere was relaxed and joyful. Guests began arriving. My cousins brought side dishes. Marcus and his wife, a spectacular dessert. Uncle Robert arrived with old family photos, including several of my father at my age, showing our striking resemblance. Caroline arrived next, visibly nervous, but making a visible effort. She complimented the apartment sincerely and offered to help. My mother arrived last, standing tentatively at the threshold. I invited her in with a genuine smile, showing her where to place her sweet potato casserole, a recipe from my grandmother. "Your father always loved this dish," she said quietly. "I haven't made it since he died. Thank you for bringing it," I replied, recognizing the gesture for what it was. A small but significant step toward healing. As we gathered around the table, I looked at the diverse group assembled. The family I was born into, the family I'd reconnected with, and the family I'd chosen. Each relationship had evolved. "Before we eat," I said, raising my glass, "I'd like to express gratitude for everyone here. This year has brought significant changes for all of us. Changes that were painful at times, but ultimately necessary. I'm thankful for the authentic connections we're building now, based on mutual respect rather than obligation." My mother's eyes glistened with tears. Caroline squeezed my hand briefly. Sarah smiled encouragingly. My extended family members nodded in understanding. "To new beginnings," Uncle Robert added, raising his glass. "To new beginnings," everyone echoed. The meal that followed was unlike any family gathering I'd experienced, filled with genuine laughter, honest conversation, and moments of both lightheartedness and depth. There were awkward moments, too, as we all navigated this new terrain, but they were handled with patience and goodwill. After dessert, Caroline approached me by the window. "I owe you an apology," she said softly. A real one, not the half-hearted ones I've given before. I'm listening, I replied. I treated you terribly, not just with the wedding, but for years before that. I took advantage of your generosity. I excluded you when it suited me. I mocked you behind your back. She took a deep breath. I'm deeply ashamed of who I was then. The thing is, I never really saw you, Ivan. I was so focused on what you could do for me that I never actually knew my own brother. Her voice trembled slightly. I'd like to change that, if you're willing. I'd like to know who you actually are. I'd like that, too, I said, surprised by the emotion in my own voice. Across the room, I noticed my mother watching us, a complex expression on her face. When our eyes met, she didn't look away. Instead, she gave a small nod that somehow conveyed both acknowledgement of past wrongs and hope for a different future. The path forward wouldn't be smooth. Old patterns wouldn't disappear overnight. Trust would need to be rebuilt gradually. But for the first time, I believed genuine healing was possible, not through returning to old dynamics, but through creating healthier ones based on mutual respect and authentic care. As the evening wound down, Sarah slipped her hand into mine. "Proud of you," she said simply. I squeezed her hand in response, feeling a profound sense of peace. The journey from doormat to self-respect had been painful and difficult. It required confronting not only my family's treatment of me, but also my own complicity in those patterns. Yet, standing here now, I wouldn't trade that journey for anything. In choosing to value myself, I created space for others to see and value me too, for who I was, not what I could provide. Some relationships had been lost or transformed in that process. Others had deepened and flourished. What remained was more authentic and meaningful than what had come before. As I closed the door on the day's gathering, I felt a sense of closing a chapter. The chapter where I defined my worth through sacrifice and service to those who didn't appreciate it. The new chapter ahead was still being written, its contours not fully defined. But I would write it on my own terms, from a place of self-respect and genuine connection. And that, ultimately, was the most valuable thing I could have gained, a life that was authentically mine, built on the foundation of knowing my own worth. Thank you for listening to my story today. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to prioritize your own well-being over family expectations? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries with family. I appreciate you spending this time with me, and I wish you strength and courage on your own journey to self-respect.